Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo. Good morning to all, welcome. And here we are in our last gathering of this particular retreat. And we have been exploring throughout these last days different topics, hopefully revolving around the main theme of embodiment and relationship in bhakti. We have been talking about vulnerability, honesty, bhakti in everyday life through the smallest acts. How can we give us in our fullest? We spoke about holding space, compassionate listening, radical presence. We spoke yesterday about the body as temple, the sacredness of matter. And since we have been hopefully grounded enough in some of the themes and trying to gain more balance, bodily, mentally, emotionally, and so on, we can now try to explore a little bit topics, a little bit more, I don't want to say high, but a little bit more subtle, if you will. Let's talk about God, let's talk about love, and the ever-evolving nature of them. But once we have first been grounded in what's this world of matter, as we say, who we are as developed of the divine. Because many times when those things are not clear, we project misreadings into the higher realms, into the deeper realms. If we don't have a healthy idea about ourselves, probably we misread the divine, we misread love. So we have tried first these days to prepare the ground with a clear, hopefully, notion of who we actually are, what's the nature of this world. So now we can talk about God and love in a safer way, with more groundedness. So today's topic is a little bit connected to my recent book called Evolution in Divine Love, and we have named the presentation The Ever New Absolute. So we'll talk about the Absolute, the Divine, and the ever newness of God, the ever freshness. The subtitle is Rethinking God Through the Lens of Love. So, rethinking God through the lens of love. And the scripture says that God is love. Every tradition says that. God is love. There is some echo here.
I know, I'm gonna talk as we're trying.
It's okay, sorry. I'll put it some. It's some kind of echo.
Yeah.
If not, I can put it. Oh, okay. If not, I can put it a little distant. No problem. Meanwhile, can I ask you? There's still a copy of the second book.
The second,
Gone.
you have to say which.
You bought everything.
You mean the Reddit? There's two copies.
Okay, give me a copy of the third one then.
You have to say the title in a moment.
And the second, no? There's no copy of the second one, Radical Personalism? One of each, yeah, because I may bring some sections from there. And self-salting out myself. Yeah. So today the idea will be to be open for the willingness of rethink God, right? So many times we have this tendency, maybe I may say this addiction of taking things for granted. And once we get an idea about something, we grab onto that and we do not allow that thing, whatever that is, to be something else, apart from our idea about it. But like one of my mentors will say, our ideas about God are not equal to God. God is not our ideas about God. No. We may have accurate ideas about God, but God is not limited to that. You follow? We may have an accurate idea who is Krishna, who are Radha and Krishna. I'm not saying that's necessarily wrong, but they are not encaged, limited to those ideas, as accurate as they may be. They are always more. So it's important to remain open to further disclosure, further revelation of the divine, and not take for granted God, love, Krishna consciousness, life, because generally we tend to take for granted things, make formulas out of that. This is how it's supposed to be done. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how you are supposed to be as a devotee. This is how it works. This is how it doesn't. And in the beginning, we need the formula. But let's be honest, many times in practice, we do not harvest the complete fruit of the formula. After years of following a formula in a very formulaic way, we realize, is there any more than a formula? Right? Because sometimes we can have this idea, okay, finish your 6 sense round per day, follow the 4 regulative principles, and you will attain divine love. That's the formula for some, not for everyone, for some. But in practice, maybe that's not working, not because the formula doesn't work, but because maybe we are misreading the formula. We are taking for granted, oh, the formula means this. What it means to chant the name of God, as we explained the other day, means to develop a loving relationship with everything. What it means to follow regulative principles, such as in our tradition, in some schools of our tradition, we will say, okay, do not eat meat. That's not the principle. The principle is ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-violence. Right? It's broader than your diet. You can be very compassionate in the realm of your plate, but outside the table you can be so violent in so many ways. So the actual principle is ahimsa, which still is a negative way, non-violence of saying be kind and loving. That's the actual principle in a positive way. And not only that, but be as kind and loving as you can. That's very different from saying do not eat meat. Do not eat meat. Be as kind, as loving as you can. Okay, that's the actual regulative principle. The same we can do with each one of those. So the more we play out the implications of the things, we realize, oh, the formula was way more of what I think it was. I was taking for granted the formula, the idea. I was taking for granted sometimes Krishna. Who is Krishna? We may have the formula. He's a blue boy, like the color of the dark cloud, peacock feather, playing flute, Vrindavan, cowherd boy. I'm checking all the boxes. No? I passed the test, right, Maharaj? Give me an A+. Yes, thank you. And again, it's not a bunch of information, but what's going on in the heart of that person. That means to really know the person. We can memorize the colors of Radharani's sari and the name of the veena she plays and at which time she has lunch and which are the preparations. But that doesn't mean necessarily you know who Radharani is. It means just you acquired some detailed information. But who that person is means what that person is feeling in the hearts of their hearts. So, and it's always changing. So that the point with all this is that we talked briefly about this these days, is as much as we may know about the divine, and as much as we may know about love, and our tradition has a lot of knowledge about all this, a very detailed, specific information. I mean, we even know the names of God's earrings. And we can very easily develop a superiority complex because of that, right? Which other mystical school knows the name, that there's a goddess, not only a god, and that the goddess were ankle bells, and we even know the names of those ankle bells. Who knows that? So we can develop a superiority complex out of that. And all those details, all that detailed information can still be information. If we are not in formation. We have to remain in formation, constantly forming and reforming ourselves. So transformation happens. So a big part of our learning is unlearning. A big part of our knowing is unknowing. A big part of our surrender is the willingness to let go many of our ideas about God. As I said, not necessarily because they are wrong, but maybe because they have run obsolete and they're out of date. Because the divine is always evolving. So we have to keep the pace of that unfolding of transcendence. Let me begin with an ultra shocking quote that I'm sharing in my second book, Radical Personalism. This is a quote from Swami Sadananda. He was the first, one of the first, if not the first, I don't remember the chronology one now, Western disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He had a few European disciples. And one of them, the most well-known one, was Swami Sadananda from Germany. So it's a letter that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote to him, to Swami Sadananda, to his aspirant disciple.
So he's a German,
yeah,
and even sannyasi.
Yeah,
from Bhaktisiddhanta.
Not sannyasi from Bhaktisiddhanta.
No, but disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a book of him also.
There are many.
But not this.
The most well-known books are about from a disciple of him called Walter Eidlitz or Baman Das. Yeah, but he was initiated with Bhakti Hridaya Bon Maharaj, but connected with Swami Sadananda as his main guru. And there are compilations about Swami Sadananda. Yeah. Those interested, we can share some resources. So there's this letter that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur sent to his aspiring disciple, Swami Sadananda. He says, the first thing you have to do, fasten your seatbelt, the first thing you have to do is to collect all what you learned, read, excerpted, felt, know. Put it in a big bag and throw it into the sea where the sea is deepest and start anew. Now, of course, we have to understand that properly. No? This is not like all that happened till now was useless. That's not the spirit of the letter. It's not like whatever you knew and felt doesn't count. It means we are on an ever-evolving journey. So don't become too attached to all that, because that will get in the way of all that is waiting for you to be known and experienced and felt. That's the actual spirit of that, the context in which that letter comes. If you are willing to be a disciple, student of love, love is ever evolving. Love is always growing and moving. So we cannot go to love with all our list of certainties and boxes and things to be like this and taking for granted everything. We won't survive much longer into that school of love, into that dancing school of love. So there has to be a willingness to let go, to be able to learn anew. And maybe what I learned till yesterday was great and perfect for yesterday, but now tomorrow that's taking me for the next day when I'm ready for a new lesson, for a new level of embracing reality. As we say, no? Respect, look anew. Let's do not take for granted Krishna. Let's do not make God limited to our ideas about the divine. Let's not be so cruel with Krishna and put him in a box. You are this. You are my idea about you. That's not very romantic, right? If I approach someone and say, do you know who you are? You are all my biases and assumptions and ideas about who I think you are. That's who you are. So we will have a relationship based on that. I mean, almost all of us do that with each other. But if you start a relationship saying that openly, everyone will run away because nobody wants that. But almost everybody does that, including with God. No, again, the divine is so merciful and patient, and he sees, as we say, he sees everything. So he said, oh, you're coming to me with all these bags of assumptions, of ideas and biases and concepts, and you're trying to trap me in a box, and you want me to be predictable and controllable and measurable. And I'm not that, Krishna says. But you insist so badly in me being that. So you want me so bad to be what you want me to be. No, that's slavery. That's dysfunctional relationship, right? So the real relationship starts with you give the other person the freedom to be who they are and all that they can be. So it's a gradual, I will use the word deprogramming process. We need to be reprogrammed of all the wrong ideas we have. That's an artha-nivriti, it's a form of deprogramming, getting rid of false values, false beliefs. Or again, even if they are not false, they are no longer enough for where we are today. As I gave the example yesterday, I think, of me, my mom, and diapers, right? That was beautiful. When she was changing my diapers, I was a baby. Thank you, Mom. I love you. But we are ready for something else now. Because that was beautiful, that helped to build the foundation for now, being ready for something else. Recently, I read a wonderful line, a genius-like one line from Father Richard Rohr, and he will say, our previous experience of God is often our greatest obstacle to our next experience of God. Very, very powerful. Our previous experience of God, as beautiful as that was, as real as that was, usually becomes the greatest obstacle to the next experience of God. Because we become too attached to that experience, because it was beautiful, it was great. We don't want to let that go, because we may be even afraid, if I let that go, I will end up with nothing. So there's a sort of risk in letting that go, with the hope that a new, bigger, deeper experience is waiting for me. We need to trust the nature of love and God, that when we let go the outdated version, a new version is waiting for us, and we won't end up in a limbo, bankrupt with nothing. That's why Srila Siddhar Maharaj will say in the beginning of the journey, it feels, oh, no, you may be hearing all the things I'm talking, and someone might feel in the beginning, too much risk, no gain. It sounds too risky, all these proposals. Where's the gain? The more you advance, you realize the more risk, the more gain. And at the end, you realize there was no risk. It was all gain. All the things I thought I was risking were all illusory, were all based on false values, false attachment, false sense of identity. So from that perspective, Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta is telling Sadhananda, put all that stuff in a bag, throw it in the ocean where the ocean is the deepest, and be ready to the next chapter of the journey. And with that, it's a form of detachment, healthy detachment, being willing to let go. And it's not an easy one. Let go of ideas, let go of way of thinking about Krishna, about ourselves, about those, as we say these days, those we think we know. Oh yeah, my husband, oh yeah, my wife, oh yeah, my mom, I know them from tip to toe. Let's not be so sure about it. So with that intention, in my last book, Evolution in Divine Love, I'm having, this is a book about, again, as you can imagine, it's called The Eternal Becoming of God, Soul, and Matter. So it's a treatise basically on how love, God, soul, and matter are in constant evolution, are in constant movement, in constant newer expression. So we cannot put them in a box. It's an unsettling book, right? Because if you're like, everything is fixed and clear and conclusive, this is God, this is love, you read this and it's like, things are more fluid than what I thought. They're escaping my control. But that's how reality operates. Reality is out of control, out of our control. So, like once I saw a picture, there was a monk sitting, like this postcard monk sitting on a rock in the midst of the lake, And there was a quote, say, relax, everything is out of control. Everything is out our control. So relax. Because the last, we try always things to be in our control. And that's what does not allow for any relaxation ever. So I divide this book in 4 chapters, one dedicated to love, one dedicated to God, one dedicated to the soul, and one dedicated to matter, material energy. I'm trying to show how each of them in their own unique way are ever evolving, are in constant new expression, new movement. So we can acquire a new paradigm, a new way of seeing things as fluid, like the saying says, right? You never bathe twice in the same river. Even if you call the river with the same name, I don't know which river you have here in Switzerland, main river called Rhine. We call the river Rhine, but you always call it that same name, but you never bathe in the same waters. It's always flowing. So we may call Krishna always. Yeah, he's always God, but there's always a new current of of Krishna that we can bathe in if we want to use the analogy, right? It's never the same Krishna. It's never the same Radha. They are the same person, but they are never the same. Veda, right? The same and never the same. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Krishna at every moment is becoming more beautiful. Difficult to imagine someone that at every moment is more beautiful than the previous moment. But that's who Krishna is. That's why he's called the all-attractive. Krishna is the all-attractive, and the all-attractive is becoming more attractive with every passing second. So Krishna is becoming more Krishna, because Krishna means the all-attractive. No? So again, it's difficult to even think about that, right? But that's who he is. And Chaitanya Charitamrita says Krishna is becoming more beautiful, more Krishna at every moment. And the love of the gopis is increasing at every moment to match the newly increased beauty of Krishna. So Krishna becomes more beautiful, the gopis become more loving to honor that new beauty. And when Krishna receives that love makes him more beautiful. And he becomes more beautiful, and the gopis become more dedicated to that beauty. And one becomes more beautiful, the other becomes more loving. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami concludes saying, the two of them engage in a competition in which none of them accept defeat. It's an ongoing, ever-expanding game, wrestling match of increased beauty and love, and beauty and love. So all of this invites us to what I like to call a paradigm shift. I mean, it's not that term comes from Thomas Kuhn, it's not my own creation, but paradigm shift means a change of worldview. A paradigm is a set of beliefs through which we tend to see reality. Each one of us have our own paradigms, coming from previous lives, our childhood, our society, culture, or religious culture, our set of religious beliefs. So they form a certain paradigm. It's like the filter through which we see everything. And again, that's not a bad word, but again, if reality is ever evolving, then our paradigm, our way of approaching reality should be equally ever evolving, willing to adjust and to adapt and to honor the newly evolved reality. So paradigm shift means that, the willingness to dare to see reality from a new lens, from a new perspective. And of course, doing that implies, questioning what gets in the way of a paradigm shift. Because it's not easy. It's not, okay, tomorrow I will change my paradigm shift. And you will realize that, oops, it's not happening. What's getting in the way? Many times what's getting in the way are different, what we will call in English, biases. A bias, like certain prejudiced ways, limited ways, assumptions that we take for granted. Again, things are like this that makes us think in a certain way, feel in a certain way. Let me share with you, I compile a few written by a friend of mine, Brian McLaren, a few biases. He has a list of, I think, like 20 or something. I just mentioned a few famous ones. First one is confirmation bias. So what's a confirmation bias? We judge new ideas based on the ease with which they fit in and confirm the only standard we have. All ideas, all information, and trusted authorities. So as long as the new information confirms what I already know, okay, that's welcome. As a result, our framing story, belief system, or paradigm excludes whatever doesn't fit. So if you tell me something that conflicts with my old beliefs, generally we tend not to accept that, because that creates what's called a cognitive dissonance. Like, if for 20 years I heard that, whatever, God is an angry daddy who will chastise me forever, and someone suddenly starts to speak about God as an all-merciful, it conflicts my previous beliefs. So I may experience some, even if the new idea is better, because I'm so accustomed, my identity is built upon certain other beliefs, letting go of that beliefs implies some form of letting go of my sense of identity. It feels like a type of dying, if you will. So many times we are not willing to let go of our ideas because we have an identity built around those ideas. So letting go of those ideas feels like literally dying. That's what Arjuna tells to Krishna in the beginning of the Gita, where Krishna invites Arjuna to die to certain ways of seeing reality. And he says, I prefer to be killed by the Kurus right now in the battlefield. I prefer to die physically than to undergo the death you are inviting me to die to certain paradigms and biases and attachments and ways of seeing reparative. That's too much. Let them kill me right now. That's less painful. But of course, that's not the idea of the Gita. So Krishna continues. You have to die before you die, as we said the other day. You have to die many times before we die. So whenever the official moment of dying comes, just a biological death. We have died so many times internally that. So anyhow, that was one bias. Complexity bias is an interesting one. Our brains prefer a simple falsehood to a complex truth. Complexity bias. If something is too complex, bring something simple, even if it's false. But if it's complex, even if it's true, it's too complicated. I'm biased toward being simplistic, even if it's false. But bring something simplistic. Don't invite me for complexity. But life implies integrating complexity. Life is complex. It's not the same being simple than being simplistic. Simple means you have integrated lots of complexity and you can be a simple person. Simplistic means you are escaping complexity. You're escaping the work of integrating complexity. Community bias, that's a classic one. Community bias means that it's almost impossible to see what our community doesn't, can't, or won't see. So if my community doesn't see something, I don't see that either. I only see what my community sees, what my tribe. I only accept what they accept. I only follow what they follow. I only reject what they reject. Many times this happens, community bias. Complementarity bias. If you are hostile to my ideas, I will be hostile to your ideas. If you are curious and respectful toward my ideas, I will respond in kind. So complementarity bias. Anyhow, many others. Complacency bias. I prefer not to have my comfort disturbed. So I tend to go toward those things that keep me in the comfort zone. So again, these all are biases that get in the way of paradigm shift, of the capacity of daring to see reality from another angle of vision, leaving behind what's certain, safe, controllable, predictable, measurable, which all that is a word for Maya in Sanskrit, right? Maya means that which can be measured.
Yeah.
Maya, which translates as, we say this illusion, right? But also illusion means that which can be measured, that which you can control. If you can measure something, means you can kind of manipulate it, control it. But at the same time, that word means illusion, which means that's not possible. No matter how hard you try to measure, to control, even if you think, again, I can measure this napkin. Again, you bring a microscope and you scratch the surface of the napkin and you realize there's so much going on. I cannot measure this. It seems you can measure it, but you cannot. That's what Maya means, that which is not. That which seems to be, but is not. So anyhow, I was talking that at the end of my book, at the end of each chapter of my book, I present a list of paradigm shifts, key paradigm shifts, exploring each chapter. So I try to, in each chapter, bring invitations to analyze whether it is love, God, the soul, or matter from a new perspective, and deconstructing false values and false beliefs, deprogramming ourselves for things that we take for granted and may just be a belief. One thing is to believe in something, another thing is to have an experience of that. And spiritual life is not so much aligning with a set of beliefs, but having an experience of the truth. Some people think I only subscribe to the right belief and I'm saved. No, it's all about experiential life, having an experience of the truth. So, in the chapter of God, the topic is God, Krishna, the divine, sweet absolute, as I like to refer to divinity, as ever evolving. And that's in itself can be a paradigm shift for some of us. For some of us, we may have an idea of God as a fixed entity. It doesn't change. And there is a place for that also. Because the scriptures, and I mentioned that in my book, describe God as changeless many times. But they also describe him as ever evolving. Paradigm shift, right? Because for us, it's like, no. Or it's changeless or it's ever evolving. Come on, Maharaj, decide. Black or white. But the problem is that between black and white, there are 256 varieties of gray, right? So there's lots of things happening between black and white. So Rupa Goswami, for example, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, when he gives 64 qualities of Krishna, at one point, there's one that is, he's changeless. But then 2 qualities after that, he says, he's ever fresh, ever new. So you have to accommodate the two. We cannot just pick the one we like the most, the favorite one, the less challenging one. And the other one, the two have to be integrated. So in which sense God is changeless? In which sense he's ever fresh? No? Again, complexity. We need to make an effort to understand God as much as we can understand God, of course. No, it doesn't mean that with my head, again, I will capture Krishna, but it doesn't mean that I should not use my head to get as close as I can. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami will say, Siddhanta Valiya Chitta Nakara Alas. You hide the Krishna Lagi Sudhrita Manas. He says, Siddhanta Valiya Chitta. Try to contemplate the Siddhanta. Try to contemplate the truth of the matter. Who is Krishna? What is love? And then he said, Nakara Alas. Don't be lazy. So he's saying, try to make the best possible use of all the God-given faculties you have. Your intellect, your mind, your every faculty. Try to invest them as much as you can, till they reach a point where they become exhausted. When your intellect say, okay, I cannot go beyond this. great. But you reach the limits of your faculties, and now you can surrender and take shelter in a method that goes beyond your intellect. But that doesn't mean you don't have to use your intellect. I lost my track. What I was saying before that, help me.
Changing and ever fresh.
Yeah, thank you. So in which sense Krishna is changeless, for example? He's changeless in the sense that Krishna is always Krishna. No? That doesn't change. God is always God. It's not that someone else becomes God and the other previous one becomes dethroned and we have a new God, like we have a new president or whatever. No. He's always there. No. God is love. That doesn't change about God. God is always love, loving love. It's changeless. He doesn't change bodies like we change bodies. He doesn't change his sense of identity like we may change. Oh, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a dog, I'm born this, I'm born according to different lifetimes. That doesn't change about Krishna. But one thing that doesn't change either is that he's ever evolving. That doesn't change about him. There's this famous one-liner that says the only constant is change. There's a play of words because constant gives the idea of always the same. So the only constant is change. I'd like to share with you how I begin the paragraph with a quote from a dear friend of mine. Here, the second chapter, I call this chapter on God is called Can God Be Updated? I use a contemporary language because nowadays people have their phones, and sometimes if you don't download the latest version of the system, it runs obsolete. You cannot use it, right? So you need to update the version, the latest version. If not, it becomes obsolete. So in the same way, God is constantly updating itself to be ready for the new chapter. And God is love, as we say. So the chapter begins with one quote from Ilia Delio. She's a dear friend of mine, an elder. She's a very interesting person, Franciscan. She's a Franciscan nun. She's a theologian. She's a scientist. She has 5 PhDs. And she's very simple and loving at the same time. You don't find that combination is more difficult to find that combination that harmonizes changeless and everyone. So she says, she speaks a lot about this book is deeply influenced by her writing. So she says, change is not contrary to God. Rather, change is integral to God. For God is love, and love is constantly transcending itself toward greater union. By change, I do not mean God becomes something other than God. Rather, God is a continuous becoming in love, driven by the absolute dynamism of divine love itself. Contrary to classical beliefs in God's immutability, he doesn't change, it is precisely because God is capable of change that he embodies absolute love and remains ever faithful in that love. So that's the idea of God, love, of God in eternal becoming, because God is love. Raso Vaisaha, rules in our tradition. God is love. And that's very important to begin with, to rethink God as love, rather as generally many times we think God through the categories of power and control, instead of relationship, intimacy, love, reciprocity. That really changed the picture of God. Especially in our tradition where we speak so much about Krishna, Radha and Krishna, Sri Chaitanya, there's all this very close, human, sweet, intimate, divine, reciprocal, compassionate forms of the divine. So if in the midst of all that we insert some idea of Yeah, but if you don't finish your rounds next lifetime, you will be born as a frog. Oh, I've heard that. So that creates such short-circuiting. Because on one side, here, Krishna Karuna Sindhu, you are an ocean of mercy. But as long as you don't fail one single day with your rounds, because if not, sorry, your human birth is at risk. He may no, that doesn't make sense. No? So we need to get a coherent picture of God. No? That doesn't contradict. When we speak about God's mercy or God's justice or God's any attribute, we have to understand them in ways that they're not getting in the way of the other attributes. That we remain with a coherent picture. So again, as I say, we can say in so many ways God is changeless, but in a way that allows for his ever-evolvingness in love. God is always new, always fresh, always ready to surprise us, always ready to surprise himself. That's even mentioned in the scriptures. Krishna experiences surprise, which is great. That's another interesting idea that is one of the paradigm shifts that I include at the end of the book. To speak about God's omniscience in a nuanced way. Because sometimes we think God knows everything in the past, in the present, and what will happen in the future. But if that will be taken literally, then God cannot experience any surprise. Because he already knows everything in advance. So when he seems to experience some surprise, he's actually faking. Do you think so? The thing that when Krishna expresses some awe, wonder, and surprise in the Lila, he's actually acting, he's making a show? Or he's genuinely experiencing that?
There's Yoga Maya. So then Yoga Maya puts him into Maya, where he then actually, he doesn't know. And he experiences, he's surprised. He can go out of this Maya, sure. Yeah, but if he's under the spell of Yoga Maya.
Tattvadarshini.
Krishna is God, Krishna, he knows all possibilities what I have in future. There are so many, but I have this free will. And he doesn't know every second which decision do I make. So that's why it's over for him.
She was already inspecting my book in advance. I know she didn't, but I'm just joking because that's also an important point that some theologians will say, and I will agree myself with that. God knows all the future possibilities, but he does not know exactly what will be the particular thing we will do, because that's the whole meaning of free will. If someone already has the script with what you will be doing at how much that. So anyhow, yeah, we don't. It's an important point. It's boring because we don't want to. We want to speak of God and think of God and relate to God in a way that is not boring. For us, it's not boring. For him, but many times, without knowing, we are depicting God in such a boring way. He's always the same. He has full certainty of everything. Everything is pre-scripted, predetermined. And again, that gets in the way with our free will, with so many other things that need to remain in place. Or this idea of God is perfect, which of course I'm not against that. But sometimes we understand by perfection a finished state. So if he becomes something more, that means he was not perfect to begin with. Sometimes we can think like that, right? So if God is perfect, means final state. It's final roof. He cannot. If he becomes more perfect, he was imperfect. No?
And her to be perfect includes also imperfect.
Let's explore the idea. Yeah.
Will we need the microphone?
Not yet. I think so. Let's see. We'll keep it there, and if someone Of course, our tradition will say, for example, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. You know, maybe that verse, and if you don't, you have heard one word repeating itself many times. Purnam, 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 which means complete or perfect, whole. So it says God is whole, is perfect, is complete. And whatever emanates from the complete is complete. So in one sense, everything is complete. But we may not be aware of that completeness, right? So God is complete. But on the foundation, our tradition will say, on the foundation of being complete, he can attain newer degrees of completion. But on the foundation of being complete. Rupa Goswami will say, for example, Krishna in Dwarka, to give an example, he's Purna, he's complete. Krishna in Mathura is Purnatara, he's more complete. Krishna in Vrindavan, Purnatama, he's most complete. But the word complete is always there. So it's not that at any point there is no, but because he's complete or perfect, perfection must include the chance of further perfection. That's how I will present. If I say you are so perfect that you cannot grow, expand, the more I say that, the less perfect that sounds. Right? God is so perfect that he cannot experience more love than the love he's experiencing. He cannot grow in terms of his loving. He's perfect. That doesn't sound perfect. That sounds limiting. For example, someone asked Srila Siddhar Maharaj once, he was in a temple and the deity of Mahaprabhu was there. And someone asked him, so you say that this deity is not different from God himself? Yes, Srila Siddhar Maharaj said. But God is the infinite. So how can you limit the infinite to a finite form? And Srila Siddhar Maharaj replied, if God is the infinite, how can you limit the infinite to not have the capacity of manifest himself in a finite form? Because infinite means infinite possibilities. If you're infinite, you can manifest in any form and still be the infinite. But that means to be the infinite. You follow my point? If I say, no, because you are infinite, you cannot do this, you start to limit the infinite. So in the same way, if you say God is perfect, therefore he cannot experience more love, then you are sabotaging God's perfection. So yeah, God is perfect. You know, in my book, I refer to the numerical standards. Now, for us, 100% means perfect. When we say something is to its fullest, 100%. But for us, a number that generally represents God is 108. So it includes the 100, perfect, complete, plus, and the 8, if you put it on the side, which I mentioned that in my book, is the infinity symbol. So yeah, God is 100% fully complete, plus infinite possibilities of eternal becoming. So that will be the idea.
I remember as a little kid, we would say that. I love you plus infinity.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. We have to include that in our Vaishnava vocabulary. Krishna, I love you plus infinity. So again, for us to think of God, this is one of there are a few, let me share with you some of the paradigm shifts that I share at the end of the book. Of course, one is, as I say, God is changeless, but it's also ever fresh. Which again, it's a paradigm shift. Because maybe we were thinking only changeless, only ever fresh. Why not both? Right? Or we just say God's perfection is not a fixed maximum. No. It's not just a finished number. That's it, perfect. You can go beyond that. That's perfection. Well, that's imperfection. Or what we mentioned a few moments ago, no? Omniscience. God's omniscience is dynamic. No? He knows, but to a point that allows for free will and so on. One more that I mentioned here is God is not entirely impassible, not impossible, impassible. I have to become a little bit technical here. There's an English word called impassibility, which many schools, theological schools ascribe to God. God is impassible means he's so beyond this world that he cannot empathize with what you are feeling. He's beyond all suffering. So he's not empathic, basically. He's absolutely beyond. So the paradigm shift here is God is not that. Of course, the same time we can say Krishna doesn't have a first-hand experience of what it means to be in mundane illusion. No, it's not that Krishna becomes subject to the gunas of nature and becomes a conditioned soul and is selfish and self-centered. That cannot happen with God, basically. He's always beyond the gunas. But that doesn't mean that he cannot empathize with our experience, despite he doesn't have a first-hand experience of that. It doesn't mean that you cannot empathize. It's like let's go to an example from us. I don't know. My mom, she lost 3 pregnancies. Really. So I never lost any pregnancy in this life for obvious reasons. But to some level, I can empathize with her experience and suffering. Even I don't have the first-hand experience of that. It's not that because I do not have the experience, I don't feel anything for that. I cannot feel anything. No, I can feel a lot. And I can connect, and I can make an effort to even understand more and connect more with your experience. Though I will never have that experience in this life myself. So you follow, not having the same first-hand experience that the person had doesn't mean that I cannot be empathically connecting with their pain or suffering. So in the same way that Krishna is beyond the gunas doesn't mean that he doesn't understand or can connect with our experience under the influence of the gunas. And that's why he gives so many beautiful instructions for those of us who are under the influence of the gunas, how to transcend them. Actually, we need someone who is beyond the gunas to give us a clear picture of what those inside the gunas can do to go beyond them. Like a psychologist, like a therapist needs to be beyond the patient's situation to be able to offer proper feedback, but also connected enough with the patients to also offer proper feedback. Both things are required. You need to be empathic enough, but also removed enough. So to not be absorbed in the same situation, and the patient is like, I'm going crazy. I'm also going crazy, says the therapist. It's like, oh, that was not the idea. I'm not paying you for this. I need you to connect enough with my craziness, but also to be enough removed to help me to gain another perspective of how do I get out of here. So sorry for the example. But similarly, we could say Krishna is removed enough to understand from the bigger picture and offer proper light to the situation, but also empathic enough to offer that feedback in a way that really resonates with our experience. And Keshavacharya is raising his hand and he's dancing also.
Not limiting Krishna that he cannot become conditioned.
I will say that it's not, because again, in the name of, it's tricky because we're using words and ideas, and we can say, okay, for Krishna not to be limited, he can do anything and everything. And that also gets in the way of other things. Like I said, for example, Krishna is love. He's love. That's what the scripture says. So he cannot he cannot stop being love. Do you want to call it a limitation? Okay. But if I say no, he can't stop being love and become the most cruel dictator on earth. So he remains unlimited and can do whatever he likes. No, it doesn't work like that. Actually, there are certain things that Krishna cannot do. He said that if God cannot, which was the example you gave, have an experience of being an illusion, right? So if Krishna cannot be an illusion, wouldn't that be limiting him to not being able to be there? And I will say, no, that's not the case, because again, for God to be God, certain things had to remain in place to make the idea of God coherent. If God becomes a conditioned soul, if God stops being love, if God becomes anything and everything, so what's the difference between God and everyone else? So there are certain things that cannot happen in connection to Krishna. But I won't say that's limiting him, because he's unlimited in who he is, in all that he is. So his love, for example. So in his being love, he's unlimited in that. He's ever expanding, ever evolving. He cannot stop loving. I wouldn't say that's a limitation.
He also doesn't want to.
Yeah, but even if he will want, which he doesn't, he couldn't. Because that's who he is. Thank God that he's God. Huh? So it's not a problem. It's not a problem that Krishna is love, right? It's fine. It's great. But he cannot stop being love, because that's who he is. It's like with the soul. The soul is eternal. We cannot stop being eternal. That's who we are. But that doesn't mean that we are limiting the soul by saying that. We have unlimited possibilities on the basis of who we are. So in the same way, on the basis of who Krishna is, everything is unlimited. Or we cannot bring like incoherent or absurd ideas that make no sense in connection to God. Like, okay, God can't stop being God. Again, that will be another one. Or if Krishna cannot stop being God, then that will be limiting to Krishna. You follow my point?
Yeah, it's like the example Prabhupada gives when somebody comes and says, okay, can God create something which is so heavy that
A rock so heavy that he cannot lift. That's a famous theological example.
Prabhupada says, yes, he can.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards he will lift it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's again with this yoga maya, I think, which helps him to do such acts.
Yoga Maya is great facilitator at Darshan. So I think we need to extend the microphone now. But he's dancing. He's busy dancing. That's it. We're talking about ever evolving and expanding, so we need to start dancing. So we cannot blame Keshavacharya for his dancing. He's symbolizing what we're talking about. Darshan.
Seems to be longer.
It's ever evolving, ever extending cable. Yeah.
Another perspective is that all the feelings what we experience is also in the material world, because it is only mirror. So Krishna knows everything also in the spiritual world. And Radharani, when she is
Put the microphone here.
in Mom, she's Krishna on her lap, but she thinks he's gone, Madhusudan has gone, and she's crying. I mean, there are the same feelings, but we are just a drop of what actually is experienced in the spiritual world. So I don't think Krishna knows everything what we experience. I mean, of course, the gunas that we are forced to do this, he doesn't. But the rest, the feelings, I cannot imagine that he doesn't understand.
I never say that.
Okay.
I never contradicted what you just said.
Okay.
So I'm taking what you say as an elaboration.
So
he's omniscient.
What then I didn't understand what Krishna doesn't understand.
I mean, he doesn't have a first-hand experience of our experience. I mean, he's omniscient. He can be aware of our experience from his perspective. Again, he doesn't know what it means to be in Tamaguna. That will compromise his position as God. Again, we need someone to be above the gunas for us to be released from the gunas. So he always remains beyond the gunas. That's one of the names of Krishna. But again, that doesn't limit him in extending himself, his presence, his understanding as much as he can, which is a lot. So there should not be a problem for, I think, because sometimes that's presented as such, even in our tradition. Like, I don't know, things like Krishna is absorbed in his lila in Vrindavan, and he doesn't know anything apart from that, so he doesn't have a clue what's going on here in your life. So it's Paramatma is in your heart, but Paramatma is many times is presented as an indifferent witness, just sitting there and ascribing the karma that you deserve. So that's not a very heartwarming idea, to say the least, right?
Atma, he is the witness of everyone.
Yeah. But I would say the other day, it's a witness, a compassionate witness. It's not like an indifferent witness, like, you did this. No, but it's Chaitya Guru. Paramatma is Chaitya Guru, which means the Guru in your heart. So a Guru is not indifferent. The Guru is a loving person who wants the best for you, who has your best interest in mind. So God in the heart is the original Guru. And again, a Guru is not like passive figure, like watching the disciple indifferently. It's trying to do the best. So it's the same with God in our heart.
Like a loving parent.
Yeah, that's how we say the other day. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. Krishna says in the Gita, I'm the most well-wishing friend of every living entity. So anyhow, a few thoughts that I want to share with you today on this idea of an ever-evolving God, and of course, which invites us to an ever-evolving practice, an ever-evolving way of seeing reality, with everything is continuously growing. Even if we officially reach a place as we will call the spiritual world, and may like to point up, as we say the other day, go to the spiritual world. Even there, the things are continually growing and expanding, right? It's not like, okay, I have to do the work here, grow, expand, evolve. Once I'm there, no more change, no more growth. That will be hell. That doesn't sound like heaven. To go to a place where everything is the same, boring, no change, no evolution. And we hear these dynamics in the spiritual world, in our tradition, what Krishna does at the 8 periods of the day. If there will be no constant inner expansion, it will be so boring, because it looks like every day he's doing certain similar things. So if nothing changes internally, and you are sent for eternity to a place where that this time you do this and this time you do this, like, I don't want to go there. I prefer to stay here with all the ups and downs. There is more excitement, more dynamism. But no, over there, there's lots of dynamism, no? in love. So that's the God we worship. No, it's not like a finished monument, right? This is Krishna, finished product, nothing else to say. But it's a living mystery in one sense, and I speak about that in the second book, the chapter of, how is his name? Divine Unknowing, right? Knowing through darkness, doubt, and paradox, divine ignorance. Now, the importance of also remaining open that God is a mystery always to some level. I can know God, I can love God, I can be in the spiritual world, but still there's always something new for us and to him. Krishna himself becomes surprised at himself. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is basically that. Krishna saying, who is Radha? What's the love she has for me? What's she seeing in me? Who am I in her eyes? I don't know, Krishna says. The whole Gaur Lila is an exploration into that for eternity. So we are invited to coexist with the mystery of love. Now, that's an important word. in opposition to certainty. No? Have all my certainties about who God is, all in place. A love journey, a faith journey is a journey into the unknown, into mystery. Like I say, Krishna plays his flute. Gopis have no clue what will happen in the way, but they just run after the mystery and leave all behind and risk everything on the way with no warranties. They will meet Krishna, but they are risking everything for the sake of love. That is a mystery. What will happen, how it will happen. So we have to have this gradually to build this courageousness to be willing to coexist with mystery. A mystery is something we cannot control. That escapes our measuring tendencies. Something that always remains beyond our Ganashyam, as we were saying the other day. Krishna is like a dark cloud. No? In mystical Christianity, they have this book, The Cloud of Unknowing. I don't know if you heard that. It's a very interesting treatise. The Cloud of Unknowing. Oh. So it speaks a lot about mystery and about God being mysterious. Krishna's name Ganashyam, the dark cloud. Very similar. Mysterious dark cloud of unknowing. So it invites for vulnerability, all the things we were talking these days, to relate to something that is always new, always mysterious, but always beautiful and loving and attractive. So that's a very, very important journey to go on. So let's do a short exercise, our last exercise in our last meeting. In pairs, we have pairs. And we'll use paper and pen that Kamania brought today for us. So I will explain to you the exercise. Then we will select the pairs, my favorite part, and then we'll do the exercise.
They have notebook, do they still need paper?
Sorry?
They have notebook, do they still need paper?
No. If they have their notebook, it's just something writing for yourself. If someone doesn't have a notebook, Kamania will give you, it will be some small writing, nothing too long. So, so we'll sit in pairs. In pairs. And the exercise will be the following, just for you to keep in mind.
Paradise. You're sitting in Paris.
In paradise also, yeah. In pairs, hopefully it will be paradise. I don't want anyone to experience hell with the companion, the partners I will choose. So I hope it's
possible to evolve.
Yeah, you can always grow. Yeah. So I will give you, there will be 2 prompts, 2 things that you will be writing about for 3 minutes, each one. You will be in pairs, but each one first will be writing on your own. First thing will be to complete this sentence, which will be the God I used to believe was, and then comes all our ideas and assumptions about God. No? The God I used to believe was, whatever, an angry daddy or someone who doesn't change, whatever. So you can spend 1.5 minutes completing whatever comes from that place. The God I used to believe was. And then the other one is the God I long to believe in now is, and hopefully something more realistic and positive. Sorry? Or I believe, depending where you are. The first one is the God I used to believe, and the second one can be the God I now believe, or even if it's difficult yet, the God I will long to believe in is, and then you fill in there. So 3 minutes to complete these 2, and of course you can put more than one thing there. So then each one of the pairs will be sharing with each other what you shared in the paper to the other person, and the person will, of course, receive, as we say, compassionately, empathic listening with presence, without saying anything, just hearing. For a few minutes. Again, 1-2 minutes sharing, the other person listening. And then we switch roles, and the other person shares the other person shares their own content, and the other person listens. And after that, I will play the bell. I will be there reminding you to honor time. See, Krishna says in the Gita, I'm time. So we have to honor Krishna. And then you will share a few minutes together about what felt different when you placed the old and the new side by side. No? What I used to believe and what I now believe, or what I will long to believe. How the contrast feels. Okay? It's clear? You can ask any question if you have. I will pause the recording and I will select the pairs. So, welcome back. So I hope the exercise worked. I don't know if someone would like to share what felt different when you placed the old and the new side by side. You know, the contrast between how God looked and how he, she, or them look now, or who you would like to look them. Any thoughts about that someone would like to share? The experience of contrasting on one part, how it was, how it is, or how we would like it to be. There's a microphone there waiting for whomever would like.
So the old God I believed in was, or I feel now he's really stagnant and it's a little bit my servant, but it's not so interesting. And the God I believe now, it's really enlivening and exciting to look for him, and it gives me life. So this is a different feeling than I have now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Showachari.
Yeah, my God before was the one who wanted me to just follow. Yeah, just read and preach, clean my dirt. And he wants me to risk for new adventure. So he wants me to walk my own path. It's like when I got kicked out of the temple. And I met one devotee, he did the same. He asked me, are you a rebel or a revolutionary? Because I told him I was kicked out. And then I didn't know. I said, I think I'm both. And he said, very good. We need such people, such devotees. And this was one of my change. More changes came. But it's really this going my own path. And God who wants me to be unique, be myself. So I'm connecting with me. So.
That's right. Thank you. Reminds me this one name of Krishna is Urukrama, which means the great adventurer. So if he's the great adventurer, of course, he's inviting to relate to him is a great adventure, right? As you were mentioning, call to a risky adventure, so to say. Of course, great adventurers. Thank you. Someone else would like to share something, Shamkund?
For me, the change was mostly about the compassion. For some reason, maybe like based on the previous experiences in the devotee community, which was like more based on strict rules and following without any fault. And maybe like also some experiences from childhood. I had the view of like punishing judge of God, and yeah, thanks to like other devotees I met and your book as well. It's turning more into like compassionate friend, listening friend, who can I can be honest with, and to like show my weaknesses, and even see God as someone who has his own weaknesses or allows himself to be vulnerable and feel pain and these emotions. So that's this, and I would really like also to use this opportunity to say goodbye because I have to leave. I have to run to the bus. So
Right now.
Yeah, in 10 minutes. So.
Oh, okay.
The bus leaves in 10 minutes?
Yeah, it leaves in 20 minutes, but I have to go there by foot because they are still cooking. So I'm in So thank you all for this opportunity and for the encouragement and your association. It was very enjoyable experience. I hope to see you soon in other place.
Thank you. Thank you, Shamkunda. Thanks for coming and for bringing the gift of your own presence. Thank you. Hopefully you can get also some prasad with you when you leave. Let's say. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. It's good to have a good roommate for sure.
We were both also kitchen cleanup, store really so great.
Okay, something else? Any other feedback before we put the sharing to rest? Natalia? Keshavacharya? Sorry.
That before I believe in a God that was just masculine, and that his value was masculine and his way of being, and that is different from now that I understand as a complementary form of feminine and masculine. And that's.
Thank you. Important one. God is not only God, it's goddess, right? Again, all these are words. God, goddess, it's beyond words, but there's a perfect integration of feminine, masculine, whether we want to speak in terms of a divine couple or even in terms of Sri Chaitanya being masculine, but internally relishing the experience of the divine feminine and inviting us to do the same, right? To embrace our male and female polarities in a perfect integration. Something else before we put the sharing to rest? I don't know if there are any questions, something you may need to share before we conclude.
A question that came up for both of us, actually.
Yeah, microphone for Ken.
Thank you.
So we were, hearing each other's contrasting from the God I used to believe in was, and we were sharing how the God I long to believe in is, because even though we've been gifted so much through our tradition and our acharyas, how, yes, we know it philosophically, who Krishna is, who Radharani is, but then can we really say it's here? I can't. So that's why we were both feeling this is, and we long to believe in. So the question is how to bring it.
Make that longest journey of 20 centimeters from head to heart, right?
Yes, because I believe all my gurus when they tell me who Krishna is. I believe them when they tell me who Radharani is. But do I really believe it in myself, for myself? I believe they feel that. So it's just.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the perennial question, right? How to move from theory to realization, knowledge to wisdom, head to heart. This is the real sacred parikram we have to do. Pilgrimage from head to heart. We don't need to cut the head. We just need to, just in case, right? It's not that we have anything against what happens from the neck up. We just need to use the head in the service of the heart. So we are receiving concepts and ideas, and I imagine we also feel something. It's not just a pure intellectual exercise. We are just like tuk, 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 tuk. There are things that give us an experience, which may be a glimpse, maybe not the full thing yet. But we have to begin somewhere. So you're mentioning this example, Kamania. Okay, you hear from your gurus about the God we long in our lives, and we believe them. And I assume the belief is also based on an experience that you've had with those gurus that make you open to trust them.
Yes.
So I will say there's already some experience going on. It's not like nothing is going on. There's already a trust and experience with those personalities that make you open and believe them. And when you hear from them about these notions of God, there is some experience still. You may not be sure how much is an experience, how much still is here, how much is still is here. We are probably on the journey in the midst of the parikram from head to heart. And I would say it's just continue to expose ourselves to those people we trust, that touch our heart, that we really believe in their words. Safe travels, Shamakunda. Thanks for coming. Hare Krishna.
There's some little donation.
Oh, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Wow.
Have a great journey.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Very good.
Jai. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Jai.
Oh, they love you. Oh, we love you too.
That you had an experience to go from head to heart. You just need to hear I love you, and that's it.
In the moment, it happens.
Yeah.
Like in the moment of this association with these souls who are inspired
Yeah.
for them to hold.
Yeah. Like the other day we were talking with Krishna-bhakti Prabhu in Switzerland about this. He gave this analogy of the stone and the spoon and the sponge.
Sponge.
No, like you can have a stone and you put some throw water on this stone, and it becomes wet, but it becomes dry very quickly. But if you throw water on the sponge absorbs almost a lot, most of it. So are we in the stone chapter, in the sponge, in between the two? Because we are receiving the water, but how much we are receptive to that? So sometimes we may feel I'm receptive, sometimes I'm closer to the rock state. It's just like one on the sides. So many times I will say part of the question we should ask ourselves is, what's getting in the way of me being a sponge? What's getting in the way of me being more receptive? Not with guilt, not enter into a shame trip like I'm so bad, I'm not still a sponge, I'm not absorbing all that, I'm not having the experience that I should have, because we start tripping again. So yeah. So what may be getting in the way? Maybe there are still some, as we explored today briefly, some biases, some fears, something that gets in the way of me really believing this new version of God, so to say. There's some unresolved childhood wounds, something that gets in the way, that when that idea comes, some other voice gets in between and does not allow for the full experience. So it's a process of introspection, huh? Like seeing what's happening inside, which are the beliefs we are carrying. Because again, like it or not, we all carry some, many times, toxic beliefs about God, whether from childhood, whether from our own religious formation, our own experience in Krishna-bhakti, and sometimes we hear that so many times that now we need to hear the other version even more times. No? So we need to expose ourselves repeatedly, probably to the same, which is never the same, it's ever evolving, but to the same narrative. If I heard for 10 years, God is angry with you and ashamed of you, to give you an extreme example, sorry, for a decade, Probably it's not enough for me to tell you one time. That's not true. He loves you unconditionally. I mean, you may be feeling, really? Wow. But maybe after some time, the old narrative comes again. So we need to go back to the new narrative, to the real one, and remain there as much as we can. To expose ourselves to those types of narratives or perspectives till gradually, it's a process, gradually there will be more and more replacing all these inner voices of guilt and shame and fear and intimidation and whatever voices we each one of us have. So it may take time, but if we expose ourselves to that new quote unquote, it's not new, it has always been there, it's new for us, the new version of the divine, hearing from people that we love and trust, that combination proves the most effective, because I'm open to those people, and from those people I'm receiving these healing perspectives, and I repeatedly bathing in those waters. So in time, you will see a change. There will be a change. There will be a transformation. It won't happen in one weekend, but it has to begin. Like, for example, now we joined for 3-4 days. I never come with the expectation, okay, after this retreat, everything changed, absolutely. No. But hopefully we have a few glimpses of things, each one of us, all of us, me included, that, oh, there's this can be seen differently, this can be experienced from this way, oh, there is hope, there is this paradigm shift. And of course, next comes, what do I do with that? How to continue to bathe myself in that? And that's our daily choice and determination and discipline of choosing that repeatedly to gradually counteract the other tendencies, whichever there may be, right? So
environment how to behave there.
Yes, that's a classical challenge after a retreat or an experience that some of us may have experienced, felt like, oh, this was transformative, beautiful, it was life-changing, whatever. So now, what? In 3 hours, I'm going back home, and will I be the same person? How will I interact with the rest of the world? I'm not longer so, and there are no easy answers to that. It's not like, no, just do this, and that's it. You keep all this energy forever in your life. No, it's a daily effort, voluntary effort to choose. I want to keep this in my heart. I want to practice from this way. I want to feel God in this way. Okay, what do I choose to do on a daily basis for that to happen? How do I integrate? Yeah, all this experience. It's not, I mean, we will need time to process and digest whatever we have shared these days. So we need to take that time.
I'm sharing right now in our WhatsApp group the symposium that Maharaj has organized this coming weekend. So
okay,
we just have to make it a few days, and then we get another little boost from 4 wonderful presenters. So
next weekend.
WhatsApp.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's always, of course, a challenge how to integrate all that and embody that. Speaking about embodiment, and extend that in a natural way to our environment. It's not that we return and we're totally dysfunctional and I don't know how to talk with my wife and my neighbor and my kids because now I'm very transformed, so I don't know what to do with all of you. That's not the idea.
Like before, it was speaking to just people about Krishna consciousness and to get the experience to be fully rejected. But now I make the same experience with before. I already told too about an experience which I made due to a lecture I heard from you, and I was so inspired. And I was so immediately fully rejected. Wow. And this was already painful because they never not even listened to you. So, and then I felt like, wow, what I'm doing there, and I cannot even speak about it. One is my part and how to develop, but the other is where the people I can share with.
Yeah.
We help us and support us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why Rupa Goswami, when he speaks about sadhu sangha, We start the whole retreat speaking about sadhu sangha first day before introducing us. He says, Swajatiya, Swatavara, Snigdasya. Sadhu sangha has to have these three qualities. Swajatiya means like-minded. It has to be with like-minded. It doesn't mean that just because you are also a Gaudiya Vaishnava, you are like-minded. Of course, there is a similarity. We all share the same religion, but inside that, we may not be like-minded. And we may even relate more with people from a sister tradition in some cases than with a Gaudiya Vaishnava. It happens to me a lot. And it's okay. It doesn't have to be a problem. No, it's not that, okay, everyone has to be my best friend. No. No one to blame. So Rupa was saying you have to find people that you feel you can share your heart in a normal way. You speak the same language internally, the same mood of practicing. And it may not be everyone. It's not that you are being exclusivistic and discriminatory in the negative way. It's just you are finding your tribe, so to say, and your group, intimate group. And it can be one or two people even. It doesn't need to be like a 3,000 people community. How much intimacy you can have there. No? So generally we need our small flock. Rupa Goswami says Swajatiya, like-minded, Snigdasya, affectionate. There has to be affection. There has to be a loving concern for each other, no? Like a willingness to accompany each other on the journey, like a partnership, a companionship. That intention has to be there. And then he says Swatavara, which can be translated as sadhu sangha has to be with people that are more advanced than you, so you get benefited. But also, another way of understanding is it has to be with people who are so like-minded, so affectionate, the other two, so sincere and honest, as we have been talking, that even if they are not more advanced in terms of, let's see, if we are all relatively peers practicing on a similar level, whatever that may be, if we are all very sincere, something higher than all of us will come through us. You follow my point? In our tradition, we will, I don't know, give you an example. This Madhyam Adhikari and Uttam Adhikari, Madhyam Bhakta, an intermediate devotee, and Uttam Bhagavata, the highest devotee. Let's say all of us are Madhyam, to give just a hypothetical example. But if all of us are intermediate practitioners, again, each one is in their own journey. I don't want to just put it in one box. But we're very honest and sincere. An Uttam current can descend through sincere Madhyam practitioners, right? So that's another way of saying we have to find those people that they're all so sincere and transparent that they can channel, so to say, something that is even higher than our own self separate. Like by our own self, something can come, but when we get together in honesty and sincerity, something manifests that couldn't manifest separately by ourselves. Follow the point?
Yeah.
Like music, like you can play something by yourself, but if you join a group and all of them are honest and sincere, something higher comes and it's like, wow, this couldn't have happened just by myself playing the clarinet, right? So that's Sankirtan, as we say these days. No, Sankirtan means a collective phenomenon. We need each other for that to happen. I cannot do it by myself. So yeah, that's a healthy concern to look for people with whom I can share myself, as we spoke this days, honesty, vulnerably. Not everyone, maybe willing or ready, not to condemn anyone. Just we have to be sometimes a little bit careful with whom we associate in intimacy. We have to have proper boundaries, criteria, and discernment with respect to everyone, but we also have to find that's even in the spiritual world, right? When we hear about Radharani, there is Swapaksha, Paksha, Vipaksha. She has her intimate group, those who are partial to her, those who are opposed to her, opposed in the Lila. But we see that there are like different degrees of proximity in the groups, like reflecting, well, that will happen here also. You have people who will be your inner tribe, other people who are friendly and loving, but they are not necessarily your inner tribe. No? People who are, let's say, we are on the spiritual journey. Some people will be on the same boat with you. Some other people will be in a different boat, but will navigate almost next to you. And we will be seeing each other from the boat and throw gifts through each other. But it's a different boat, but they are close enough. They know the boat, the waters. Someone else will be in another boat a little far away, and so on and so forth. So it's okay. No, it's not that someone is worse or best, but we need to find our tribe. So Saint will quote the saying, birds of the same feather flock together. So we need to find those. Yeah. Something else? Chintamani.
Then the answer doesn't make sense without the question.
Please.
Could you tell me?
So I have a question about free will, this essential component of love. And you were speaking about that in the series on Rethinking in Austria. And there was some really interesting discussion about God's omniscience. And this is a pretty complex topic, I guess, but the idea, because you mentioned that, God doesn't necessarily know, with free will, he doesn't know what the future choice we'll make, but he knows what our full range of possible choices could be. Am I saying that correctly? Yeah. So, choices can be unlimited. So I guess, God has an unlimited ability to know these unlimited choices. But I was kind of thinking about that as like, as a parent gives a child a choice, as a parent usually knows like kind of what choice the child might make. And so I was kind of thinking, well, Krishna probably knows like what kind of choice we're going to make, but we still have the free will. So I was thinking about, how this all works with, is Krishna completely omniscient, knowing the future? Well, that doesn't seem to, that's not coherent with the idea of free will. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and that I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around this idea of, Krishna, then that seems to be a limit in his knowing.
But it's a limit in his knowing that facilitates love, because that respects free will. Yeah, I know it's not an easy topic, and again, I know it's kind of can be another one of these paradigm shifts. But I personally, and I'm not saying every Gaudiya Vaishnava will agree with me, but I know many who do. I'm more of the idea that Krishna knows every past event, every present circumstance, and every possible future outcome, but he doesn't know which will be the specific outcome in each given decision. No, it's not that he already has, because that will get in the way of free will. How much my free will is free if someone else already knows that in advance every single movement I will make? How can I call free will free will? And again, free will is a quality that is intrinsic to the soul in our tradition, and it's all tied to love. Now, I know it's a complex thing and we need to put many pieces of the puzzle together, because again, God is love. Let's try to keep in mind as many puzzles as we can. So God is love, and love is voluntary by nature. So we cannot be forced into love, coerced into love. We have to choose love voluntarily. If I put you a gun and say, love me, you will say, I love you, so I don't kill you, basically. But that's not how it works. It's just you choose voluntarily to love a person, and that's what it makes sense. So we need free will for that. We need to, and this doesn't start at any moment in time. Again, remember, in our tradition, we won't say Krishna creates the soul and he puts the free will in the soul. That's already there for eternity. So love is there for eternity. God is there for eternity. We are there for eternity. Free will is there for eternity. There's no beginning to any of these things, which in itself is difficult to think about something that never begins. So since God is love and he wants us to love him voluntarily, free will is necessary for that to happen. And for that to happen, I will say that God's omniscience needs to be, as I referred to in my book, nuanced, which means it's not that he has absolute omniscience and knows every single detail of what will happen in the future. Yeah, about the past and the present, that's another thing. But about the future, because again, if he will know everything in detail, we no longer have a God in wonder and surprise, because he already knows everything. So that makes Krishna boring, because he already knows every single thing that will happen. And again, that somehow gets in the way of our free will, because if someone else already knows all that I will do, how much I'm really freely choosing what I will do. You follow my point? Let's try to stay with that, what they call creative tension. Because sometimes you need to, like this Buddhist koan, like this. How does the sound of one hand clapping? What's the sound of one hand clapping? And you're like, no, one hand cannot. No, don't reply quickly. Just stay with that.
Brain scramble.
Till it touches you to what we will call paradoxical thinking. And when you start to think in a different way. And sometimes in Buddhist tradition, these koans, you know that the teacher gives the student the koan and they solve the koan after 25 years of contemplating how is the sound of one hand clapping. No? But not from the same place that we will think immediately. Gradually, you start to think from a different place. No?
I understood from one
That was the same. And now, it's only one hand clapping. And you could do like, okay, this is the sound of one hand clapping. Yeah, let me show you one paragraph from the forthcoming book that I'm sharing a chapter on omniscience, just if it helps to further clarify. I'm saying God's omniscience, sorry. One second. Oops. God's omniscience is not a frozen script of all things that must happen, but the loving awareness of all that can happen. Because his love is non-coercive, he does not predetermine every future act. And because his power is relational, he chooses to know the future not as a fixed outcome, but as an open wave of possible responses. While the divine knows the entire landscape of becoming, what has been, what is, and every meaningful possibility of what could be, he nonetheless allows it to be shaped by our freedom. This is what it means to say that his knowing is guided by his loving. Again, his knowing, his omniscience, is somehow always in service to his all-lovingness. That's also a thing. I mean, God has all these qualities. We will say omniscience or omnipotence or omnipresence, but what mostly defines him, according to our tradition, is his omni-lovingness. Mm-hmm. So we have to see his all-knowing in terms of his all-loving. And his all-loving requires free will. So that has to allow for not knowing what action we will take, because that will coerce free voluntary nature. I'll put that to rest there so we can allow that to marinate inside. Prasad is ready. Still, we have not received any. No, it will be offered here, right?
Yes.
So whenever it's ready, it will come here first.
No, it's ready.
Oh, the demigods have spoken. The boys.
The Polydor are fasting today.
They taste it in a different way. They express themselves. They're omnipresent, so they appear in the kitchen and Okay, so we'll put the sharing to rest here, and I want to express my gratitude to each one of you and the ones who had to leave before today. It was a wonderful experience, and I hope it was nourishing for you as well. And we gained some further glimpse into what it means to practice bhakti with embodiment, in relationship, and fortune of exploring in safe space, and holding a space to one another, exploring all these beautiful possibilities and rediscovering our own faith and our own tradition, our own relationship with ourselves, with others, with the divine, ever evolving, ever new. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to have that experience myself. And I pray you may have also had a healing, enlightening experience this day, and looking forward to the next one. It's ever evolving, ever evolving. Ever fresh.
I think I speak for everyone that you have inspired such intimacy with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
That you have opened up our hearts so much.
It's always reciprocal, right? I try to, I will take responsibility from my part, but without you, it couldn't happen either. So again, Sankirtan, we need each other. It's a collective, reciprocal back and forth. So thank each one of you for your unique spice in the masala, for the unique contribution you brought to the table. Yeah.
It was a wonderful group as well.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks so much. Shri Shri Radha Muralidhar ki jai, Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Sadhu Sangha ki jai, Gaur Premanand Hari Vanchakalpataru Visakta Sindhu Vyeva Chapati Tharan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namah.